Casual Magic has been brought to you by CoolStuffInc, where you can get cool stuff. Use the code CASUAL to get 5% off of your sale. And then also by Coalesce Apparel, where you can get really cool t-shirts and stuff, and use the code CASUALMAGIC to get 10% off your sale. And by Archidekt, a deck hosting website that doesn't really sell anything, but they like me and I like them, so kindly use them. And now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic together. My name is Shivam, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Archidekt, the deck hosting website that I like to host all my decks on, Coalesce Apparel and Design, the company that makes my merchandise, specifically my shirt, which has sold out. Oh my god, it's so cool. And the sticker, which has not sold out yet, but has an awesome me as a Mario, plus a whole bunch of other Magic shirts that I just really, really love. Working with them has been awesome, and I'm so glad that they've been my sponsor, and they're super cool. And by CoolStuffInc, who is the kind host of my show. They're really cool to work with. I really like all the folks there, and it's been a joy to work with them too. Today, I've actually a really kind of weird and neat episode. I have invited with me Ben Makes of Twitter, who is a proxy maker, or once upon a time proxy maker, who went legit, and maybe the only proxy maker to have gone legit thus far. He's the dude who makes all the amazing vaporwave lands. I don't even remember how I stumbled onto you. Somebody retweeted your stuff into my feed once, I think, and then I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I need to have like 50 of them. And you gave me them, and I made them into my lands for my treasure deck, and everywhere I go, people are like, holy crap, those are the coolest lands I've ever seen. And I'm like, yes, they are. The only land, and I'll be completely honest and fair, the only lands I've seen that are cooler are my friend Olivia Gobert Hicks. She has a Teysa Karlov deck, and her lands were done by Proxy Guy, and he went and took a bunch of like foils, blanked them, and then put the guild symbol of Orzhov, like the Orzhov land from the guild kits or whatever that came out that have the cool pattern, blew them up and turned them into like the plains and the Swamp Skull and the Plain Sun to put them on there.
Wow.
Those are the coolest lands I've ever seen.
I have not ever even seen those, but I mean,
I mean, if you've ever seen those cool Guild Pack lands, the bottom text box, he turned them into gigantic
right?
into full-size lands. They look amazing. However,
awesome.
your vaporwave lands are like the second coolest and my personal favorite, like of all these neat like proxies and stuff. Like, I'll let you talk in a minute. Obviously, you're my guest, and I want to talk to you all about this. But one thing is, I get a lot of questions because I'm on the CAG about proxies and about usage of proxies. I'm not going to talk about any of that stuff. You guys feel free to ask me on Twitter what my opinion is, and I'm not going to tell you there either. However, what I will say is the proxies I do end up using are almost always lands, because I love lands more than basically any card in Magic. Lands are my favorite part of the game, and sometimes some people make the most amazing lands I've ever seen, and I need to have them. And I was so stoked because like your lands are sick. Like, first off, I'm old. I'm like 20 years older than you. I lived through the vaporwave era when we just called it 80s Miami look, right? Like when it was just like, ooh, look at the fancy like neon fluorescent, and now watching all that come back again with like chill wave music and stuff, I'm like, yes, I'm here for this. But the fractal designs that you came up with are gorgeous and stunning, and I was like, this is sick. And I remember I showed it to like, I was playing it once, I think I showed it to Gavin Verhey, and he was like, what is that? That's the coolest land. Because I was like, when I put him in the decks, I went everybody I know, and I'm like, look at these lands, they're so cool. And everybody's like, holy crap, I've never seen lands like that. I'm like, you should make these. And then like a year later during Kamigawa, or like not year, like 2 or 3 years or whatever later, Kamigawa comes out, and I'm like, wow, look at all this cool neon aesthetic, fluorescent-y aesthetic, vaporwavy aesthetic.
Yeah, it actually even gets even crazier.
Okay, so
Because, or yeah,
we'll get to your story in 1 second.
yes.
Before we get to that, let's get to who you are.
Oh
Hey,
yeah, I
Ben.
guess that's a good first step. I just love hearing these affirmations about my work. I
Dude,
could
you know
just
what? I'll be honest, my show is not an unbiased show. I am not an unbiased host.
Well,
I am
it's your
very
show,
cringe.
you know, you're entitled to
And
that.
I love having people on here who do things that I love, and I think you rock. So, tell me, man, how'd you find Magic and how'd you get into the proxy game?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me on your show. It is not only an honor, but an absolute pleasure. My name is Ben Schnuck. I am better known as Ben Makes Stuff or simply Ben Makes. Once upon a time, I was known as Bento Box
Yeah,
Proxies.
that's how I
Um,
found you. I was like, "Oh, look,
yeah,
Bento
that's
Land."
and you'll notice that the rebrand happened about the
Mm.
same time I got contacted by Wizards. I was like, oh, I got to look a little professional here. No, but I've only been playing Magic, and I say this occasionally, but not everybody knows it. I've only been playing Magic since about 2019. I
That's like yesterday.
yeah, it really isn't that long, and it has completely consumed my life.
Well, yes, it does that.
Like if you were to, I'm not going to show you or describe it any further than this, but like my desk is covered in Magic
Well,
cards.
I mean, just
There's
to
a
explain,
giant
like
Soul Ring on the
yeah,
wall
you've
behind
got a
me. Like
gigantic Soul Ring poster on the wall. I
there's
see a
there's also a
Ragavan on the
giant
floor,
Ragavan over there too that
and
the hooks
you're
fell off.
literally wearing my T-shirt,
I am
which is
wearing your
pretty sweet.
t-shirt. I had to.
I'll be honest, seeing it in the wild is just one of the coolest things I've ever seen. It makes me so happy. It's like, I
Oh,
mean,
it's sweet. I also have you mentioned it during your opener, but I also have your sticker floating somewhere. I haven't found anything worthy enough to put it on.
isn't it
Um,
cool?
it's so
The artisan
and it's
colors are so
yeah,
neat.
and it's a great quality. I love the Coalesce
Yeah.
stuff, and seeing you and both Sam team up with them
Well, I
was
mean,
just like such a win. Oh yeah, and you're wearing Sam's shirt.
I'm
Excellent.
wearing my boy Sam Ristic Studies shirt. You can also get that from Coalesce. Sam might be the person that is the most respected in the Magic community, and deservedly so. He's the best.
He is I can't put into words like not only like how much he meant to me before I even became like he was one of the main people I watched getting
Mm.
into Magic, learning Magic, and then just like meeting him in real life, talking with
You should
he's
go hang
he's
out.
just the
He lives
coolest.
close enough
He's
to you, only
oh
like
yeah, he's
3
in
hours away
Austin,
or
isn't
something.
he? Yeah. No,
Like
but like
San
I met him in
Antonio or
Vegas when I
yeah.
met you,
Mm.
and he's so cool, so cool.
He's
I will endlessly
you
sing the
sing his
praises of
praises, right?
Sam. Yeah. But no,
So
I got into Magic. I started at a LGS. I was an employee, but I was hired as the board game guy because I
mm,
love board games. I'm a shameless board game head. Um,
what do you play?
my favorite board game by far is Dominion. Although I guess you could call that a card game. I
I
own, I
mean,
think,
that if you
6 of the
like Dominion,
expansions or
then it's
something.
if you like Dominion, then obviously Magic is like the
Yeah,
next
it
step.
like and I like Dominion first, and then like
Yeah.
after getting super into Magic and going back and playing
"Oh, this
Dominion,
is
it's
like
like,
Dominion,
oh,
but I can play with the decks after I draft them."
I can keep the deck. And yeah, and I was introduced by just like being pestered to play, and I'll never forget being handed a pack of cards and being told to open it just to
See
get
what it feels
addicted,
like.
and it worked. It worked.
What set did you start with?
It was oh my gosh, you're gonna make fun of me. It was War of the Spark. So
Ooh,
I missed the whole saga, and then I
ooh,
came in right when we
what a
hit.
place to start. Like,
Yeah,
picking up a trilogy of book 3 is not a good
I mean,
but you mean even without the
or
story
well, it was. I started at core 20, but the first pack I opened was
sure.
War of the Spark. Yeah.
Yeah, but, like, even without the story, War of the Spark is such a weird and complicated not magic set, like 4,000 planeswalkers all over the
Oh,
place
yeah, like, I
that just
was
have
l just
passive
learning what an
abilities that just
instant
own you.
was, and every pack has a planeswalker, yeah.
Yeah, right? Like, it's funny, like, the story I like to tell is when I came back to Magic, uh, it was my friend invited me to draft, and we went to go play Rise of the Eldrazi, and I'd been away from Magic for a long time, and I'm like, "Okay, I've been reading the website, I know what this stuff is," and I crack a pack, and first off, the cards are all, like, weird Eldrazi, which is already, like, colorless and like,
Yeah,
"What the hell is going on?"
pretty not
But
intuitive,
my
yeah.
rare was Sarkin the Mad, like a planeswalker whose
Uh-huh.
thing only goes down, and I'm like, "What in the
Oh,
hell is
yeah,
this
that
card?
one.
What does it do? I don't understand." So yeah, having one in every pack must have just been like, "This is a lot."
But it wasn't too bad, and I started as a commander player solely because that was what
Really?
everyone played. Oh yeah, and I still have like a bunch of commander decks, and I play every once in a while. I and then of course got very big into competitive EDH through like the great YouTube channels Playing with Power and
Mm,
I don't know, Play to Win. Although wait, they might have just been starting out then. I don't remember.
the spike feeders, mud stuff.
Spike feeders, of course. Just every commander creator is great. And then well, most of them. And then I shouldn't make sweeping statements like that.
I mean,
Um, but and then over COVID, I
that's a
got
different podcast.
into I got into modern, and that's where we are
You
kind of
got into
now.
modern during the lockdown
Well, it was like right at the tail end, and by tail end I mean like I guess
yesterday.
beginning of last year, and I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll just," like, I just started watching videos on it, and I didn't
Mm,
actually get to play it until I think, like, Modern Horizons 2 came out because that was when things started opening back up, maybe
yeah.
a little before then.
Do you
Um
remember what your first commander was?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I still have it built. It's, Mogus, oh, what is his name? Mogus
Mogus Arachnos
the
Minotaur.
Rakdos mean guy,
Yeah.
and the deck was I call it the tax man, where every single action you have to pay for it with life. So like it has the basic pings
Mm,
like Plague Spitter and Pyretic Vortex. Wait, the
Sulfuric Vortex.
Sulfuric Vortex. Um,
Yeah, I made a red.
yeah.
I made a with Torvald or whatever
Oh, the
red dwarf
dwarf.
guy.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
the red
he's
dwarf basically, and I made a whole deck that's all just hate enchantments. It's like, tap a land, take a couple damage, untap a land, take a couple damage,
yeah, that
don't
is
use
the
your mana,
exact.
take a couple
Oh
damage.
yeah, that is the deck. It is like board hate, mana barbs, all that
Oh, yeah,
stuff,
it's
like
all just the
mean.
misery machine.
Because
Did
I
you
was
build it yourself or did somebody give it to you?
I had some help from my buddy who brought me into the game.
And
Shout out
said,
to
"Hey, you
Hunter.
should play the misery box?"
Well, he showed me a couple different things, and the biggest thing was budget because this is when I was like,
Oh,
"Man,
sure.
I can't pick up another expensive hobby." So, like, I
Fair.
think I initially built the deck for like $50 just using
Mm,
what we had around the shop and my
smart.
employee discount. And then I've slowly upgraded it a little bit over time, and but
Do you
like my
still play
favorite
Commander?
commanders are like Teshar is by far, like, awesome. Same with Paco and Halden. I love
Mm.
Paco and Halden. I have a big affinity for slivers. Um, I love slivers. I have a
Slivers
Sliver
are
Overlord
awesome.
was, like, my first big deck I built that I was so proud of.
I love Slivers, but I find that deck like Slivers and Allies and Friends, I love playing
Yeah.
that deck, but it's so linear. It's like elves are my favorite tribe in Magic, and I played an elf deck, and I was like, after I did it the one time, I was like, "Oh, every game is gonna be exactly like this."
So I actually I agree with you 100%, which is why I built my sliver deck to be a control deck. I
Oh,
made
that's
it
cute.
It's a control combo, like sliver
Oh, that's
combo deck.
gross.
Oh, it's so gross. It's so fun. Like just using, Sliver Queen in the most disgusting ways possible. It's my favorite.
That's awesome. Do you prefer, casual EDH or CDH more these days? Or
These days, I don't have a preference at all.
you just
I've
whatever's on the
definitely
table, you're happy to play?
Yeah, I put more of a focus into modern, and I play pretty
Mm,
competitively. Like I try to go to 2 to 3 tournaments a week. Like
it's
I play a
wild
lot of
'cause
modern.
normally you
Um,
don't hear the pipeline going from 100 card to 60 card.
well, the thing was is it kind of makes sense because I went from commander to competitive commander, and I was like, this competition is great.
Mm,
Um, and then I was like, well, let me try a 60 card format, and I was like, this is just the best competition I've ever had. It doesn't
yeah,
even
I
CEDH
love
is
modern.
so fun, but like 60 card formats are just
I mean,
sweet. They're
it's funny,
sweet.
I've got this whole casual aesthetic, obviously my show's called Casual Magic,
Mhm,
but I love playing modern, I love playing 60 card decks where there's no nonsense, we both know what we're here to do. I'm
mhm.
here to smear you on the ground, you're here to smear me on the ground. No heartfelt
Yeah, no
feelings,
rule 0,
game
you don't
starts
have to worry about that
no,
because when
rule 0 is already there, we know what rule 0 is.
Yeah,
Rule 0 get you to 0. Um,
exactly.
and, like, I play my elf combo deck, and I've got no shame about it, and I love it. It either
No
wins
shame.
or it dies. There's no up or down here. Um, it's hella fun. What's your
Yeah.
modern deck?
Oh gosh, you're gonna make fun of me again. It is Living End.
Living End is cool, though. Living End
Okay,
is cool.
cool.
That's fine. There's nothing wrong with
I
Living
mean,
End.
like, the Cascade decks do have a level of degeneracy to them,
Yeah,
but
but I love combo, so it's fine.
it's so fun. I love that. I actually just finished foiling it out,
Oh,
like a
sweet.
month ago. Yeah,
That's
because
awesome.
it's so fun.
Ye
Um
I mean,
But
like, I would have laughed at you if you'd been like, "Yeah, I played Team or Delver." I'm like, "Okay, buddy,
well,
okay."
hold on. I've played some. So, are you my first deck that I ever played in Modern? 8 rack. My second deck that I played in Modern.
Okay.
Wait for it. No, wait for it. Lantern Control.
What the hell is wrong with you?
um.
What kind of Magic player are you?
Well, okay. So I was
Yeah, I'm gonna
inspired.
go from Mogus to 8-rack to Lantern Control.
I was actually literally inspired by Spice 8 rack.
Mm,
Because I didn't know anything about Modern, and he had said that he loves 8 rack the deck, and I don't even know if he said it was Modern, but I assumed it was Modern. And I was like,
yeah,
oh,
the
let me
modern
look
one.
into it. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll play this. Why not? And from there, I was like, well, this is fun, but I'm only controlling their hand. I would rather control everything.
Everything.
And so I tried Lantern Control, and like those decks are so fun. They're not good, but
No.
they're so fun.
Like, I look at Lantern Control and I look at eggs and stuff, and I'm like, "This is a clever deck, and it's really neat, and if
Mhm.
I was playing a one-on-one game against the AI, I would do this all day. Against a human, it's like, feels insulting."
And not only that, there's another element to like if you go to a 5 round tournament playing Modern and you play Lantern,
God, you're
oh
gonna
my,
hear
you're not
oh.
doing anything for the rest of the day.
And, like, you get no breaks, you get no pee breaks, you
Nothing.
can't eat nothing, you're just gonna be grinding Lantern all day.
Lantern is one of the biggest reasons I love Lantern so much is because it just completely changes how Magic is played. It's just not
You
even
mean not
Magic
played?
anymore. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess, but there are ways to play around Lantern and there are ways to beat
Yeah.
Lantern. And so like and then you have to be able to play Lantern well. Like a good
Oh,
Lantern
sure.
pilot has to know everything in the landscape. So it's like a good training tool, I
Yeah,
guess.
the other deck I like a lot is, Amulet Bloom. I love Amulet Titan a lot.
Oh my
Like,
gosh,
Prime Time
Amulet
is one of my
Titan.
Prime Time is one
Have
of my
you
favorite cards ever.
Have you
Mm,
checked it on Modern recently? Because that deck is redonkulous. That deck is so it's back.
oh, that makes me
Even
happy.
without Bloom and whatnot, it is so good now with Urza Saga, Force of
Oh,
Vigor,
yeah, I believe it.
Boseiju.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
Boseiju, dude. Oh god, that was a
Boseiju destroy. Oh, woof.
yeah, because the problem is when I poked back into Modern for a second, it was like Ragavan Town, and I'm like, Ragavan and DRS all day long, or that stupid
That
blue,
has
the blue thing that you delve things away.
oh Murktide. Yeah,
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 and I
yeah.
was like, "Yeah, it's boring, I don't care."
Murktide is still at the top of the format. Same with like
I
that
like
sort of Ragavan
Hammer.
stuff. It's
The
gotten a lot
Hammer
better.
deck makes me happy.
Oh, you should see the new Hammer deck since Lairs got banned because that
Mm,
definitely affected the deck. It switched from being blue, or I'm sorry, white black to white blue, and it plays Teferi now. Like it's like now like a weird.
that's
It's like an
weird.
aggro control. It's very weird. And it's very. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Okay, so Modern.
Anyways,
Having now established, I love me some Hammer though. That deck was so much fun for like the 10 minutes it was alive before it got like obliterated by Luris ban. Luris
it
needed
was
to be
there for a
banned. Don't
while.
get me wrong. That card is broken in literally every format. It
Yeah,
is
it's pretty
broken.
silly. That card is ridiculous.
Yeah. So let's talk though. Like, so you were telling me before that you're a student still. So you go to university. What are you studying?
Yes, I'm at a University of North Texas, go Mean Green. I'm studying a double major in not art. I actually am a computer engineering and math guy.
What the hell?
I'm a big STEM nerd.
Fair, fair.
I love computers a lot, and
I
but
started my university as a double major in computer science and biomedical engineering.
oh my
I
god, I was
graduated with a degree in English, international relations, and Japanese.
I'm not laughing.
Lessons were
That's just so
learned.
funny. That is because I have a buddy who is a biomedical. He's getting his master's right now in biomedical engineering, I think, and it's
Mm.
like he was telling me about it, and that stuff is like
Like,
biology is not my thing at all.
I
I don't.
it turns out that all of biology is just organic chemistry, and all of chemistry is just physics, and all of physics is just math, and I'm bad at math.
Oh,
So
I do hear there's a lot of math and OChem.
oh my god. It well, the OChem was memorizing, like, formulas, and that was easy. It's the
Or yeah,
PChem that got me, where it's all just, like,
PChem.
getting all your stupid bonds and your anyways, don't remind me about 20 years ago, please. Oh god, I must have been going to college when you were born. Jesus Christ.
I was
Uh,
born in 2000, so I'll just say that
I
nice and
was a
slow to cause
I
you some
was
psychic
a
damage.
freshman in college in 2000.
Yeah. I am now in my 4th year of college. I'll be graduating next because the double added a year. I'll be graduating next spring. So almost
Mm,
there. Just right real
good luck.
close.
Are
Trying.
you still doing undergrad?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Good
Undergrad.
gravy.
And I
Sure
would
is.
like to do a I would
Master's
love to
degree or
go to
something?
grad school at some point, but we'll
Sure.
see.
We can talk about your future later. Nobody really.
Yeah. Who knows if
Yeah,
we'll
but
all even have a future, you know?
you
So,
know, it's just smog in our future, smog and dryness.
amen.
So, but what I'm curious about is like you came to my attention because I follow and pay attention to a lot of proxy artists because I think art is cool and I think fan art is cool.
Sure.
I don't like fan card designs. That's not my jam, but I really love seeing like reinterpretations of
Oh,
artwork and
like,
stuff.
you mean like custom
Yeah, I
custom
don't like
magic?
custom cards very much.
Ah,
That's like
gotcha,
not my
gotcha.
jam. But I really love seeing people's like taking soul rings and turning them into cool things or like your basic lands or
Yeah,
redoing Goblin Guide or whatever proxies of other like cool things. I think that's sweet.
yeah.
And I think that's how like one of the other like proxy makers must have like retweeted one of your lands or something.
So, I think I know what happened wa and this is actually a great segue into, like,
Mm,
what kind of
yeah, hit me.
caused everything to happen, because if you were to trace it back to, like, one event that caused my stuff to catch on,
Mhm.
you can thank the professor, because of
Mm.
course it was the professor. I will never forget the night when it was literally like, I think 10 p.m., and I got a notification on my phone that said Tulare Community College has retweeted your photo, and that was when I had just posted the mountain. Because
You know where he found it?
where did he find it? Oh, was that you? Are you sure?
Mhm.
No way.
Because Prof and I are longtime friends, right? We
Well, yeah, I know,
and
yeah.
whatever, like but whenever I tweet cool things like that, he doesn't follow many people, but he does follow me, and
Mhm.
I'm one of the few people who does post, like, these things for him to see, like me and Olivia and
That's
some
so
of the other folks.
funny because I literally think that retweet, not only, like, did it blow up and I get a whole bunch of followers and attention, but it also, I think, is what sort of had
Oh,
Wizards,
100%.
like, caught Wizards' attention. I still hadn't put out a ton of stuff yet. That was only my first land, but that's so
Mhm.
funny. Okay, so maybe it was you then. It
I mean,
sounds like it was.
I don't mean to take any credit, and
No.
for one thing, Prof is obviously, like, miles bigger than I am, right? Like, he is, like, I've got at the time, I had a very small following of, like, couple thousand, whatever people,
Mhm.
and Prof is obviously, like, literally the planet follows him.
Yeah, he's
Everybody
got
who follows Magic
quite
follows
a bit.
Prof. So, if you get retweeted by him, everybody sees it, and your
Yep.
land was, like, vibrant and cool and sick and like totally different in every way from normal Magic Land. And it was just like, oh crap. Like, so Prof retweets you, everybody sees it, you get super boosted. But let's pull back. How did you decide you wanted to make a proxy in the first place?
Yes, this is such a. I love telling this story because it all started, like many people doing things that are
Yeah, because like,
wildly outside of what they normally do. It happened because of COVID. Uh, like everyone picked up a weird
son,
hobby or something
I've started doing
different.
stained glass and sourdough making, so I understand.
That's so sick. Yeah, awesome. And so in that same way, I was just bored out of my mind because I was back home because or it
Lockdown.
was during spring break when everything closed down. Like my university went on spring break and then we just did not open again for a year.
Hmm.
Um, and I was sitting there and I was like getting into competitive EDH, like I had mentioned before, for specifically the Playing with Power Discord,
Hmm.
because they were doing a webcam league. And I said to myself, well, it would be cool if my first sliver food chain deck, it'd be cool if my commanders stood out over webcam. That was kind of the idea, is I wanted to make it sort of stand out over webcam. Who cares if they're
Hmm.
real cards or not, because we're
You're all at
playing over
home. It doesn't
webcam,
matter.
and it's the EDH everybody proxies. Um, and that's exactly what I did. And so I made a design and I showed it around and people were like, that's very cool. I made a proxy of the first sliver. And this is like my early, just like an edit of the original art. And I then made a whole series of like 10 of them. because I couldn't print just, or I could just print one card, but I didn't want 20 copies. I just needed one copy. So I made like a full series of 10, printed all of those out. And I used them. I used them for a while as proxies in my decks. And then people really liked some of them. They really liked, and then like I made like a soul ring, and I made some all sorts of stuff, and people liked it. And so I started a Twitter and slowly sort of got the ball rolling, did some giveaways, and then that's sort of where we get to with Prof, because I I've always been a huge fan of the outrun vaporwave type style. I've been a
Mhm.
fan of it since high school. I used to make vaporwave music. I would make weird vaporwave edits and art. I was that guy in high school,
That sounds
and
awesome.
yeah, it was fun. And so I've always loved the style. I love neon,
Mhm.
and I mean, it's rather cliche for someone my age to just be like infatuated with the 80s, but that's just kind of how it is. I like the style of
As
that
somebody who
sort of.
lived through it, let me tell you,
Well, I'm
um
not saying all of it was good, because it
well, I mean, I
certainly.
was 10, what the hell do I know? I was watching cartoons, right?
All right, you
I
got
was
me
born
there.
in '81, so I'm not exactly like, I didn't live through the '80s the way that somebody who lived through the '80s did.
I mean that
I
you're
was a
you're an
'90s
'80s.
kid.
Oh well, okay. Yeah,
Like,
I suppose
uh,
so.
right, 0 to 10 is not really you're thinking about what's around
Yeah,
your house.
that's true.
11 to 20 is when you're like, "This is my decade," right?
Oh
Like,
yeah, and for me that was the 2010s, which was terrible. So, you know.
2010s.
um, but yeah, and so I was just like, well, it would be cool. Like making a wireframe landscape is not super complicated, super low poly. I'm not
Sure.
traditionally an artist. I do pretty minimal stuff, and I was like, oh, I can try and put that together, and I did, and it blew up, and I was like, it
How
was
did
like
you
a very
print it? Like,
stressful. Hmm?
I'm sorry, you were saying it was very stressful?
I was just saying, like, after it released, because it was the first one and it immediately blew up, and it was like, well, now I have to make four more of these
Yeah.
in a very short, like, I need to get these done, and that was
Oh, so
fun.
you're telling me
And
that, like, when you had done the mountain, you had just done 1 mountain
it
and threw
was
it up there
just
for
the mountain,
giggles?
because it was like an experiment. I just printed one out. Like, I literally think I just printed one out, and I might still have it somewhere around here. I should probably
Like,
find it
did you
one day.
go in, like so I'm curious because 'cause I'm gonna ask a couple of questions here
Sure,
that
sure, sure.
might be timeline broken, but I'm really curious because you basically said you wanted to make these so that you could show off fancy looking cards while playing CDH on the web, like
Yeah.
Spell Table or whatever.
Mhm.
That's rad, that makes sense. Okay, I get that. But you like, how did you print them out? Do you have like, did you just print it on normal paper, or did you go find, like, some
Yeah.
random shop to make cards to print
You
onto?
can you can yeah, there are not a like, I have plenty of local shops that do it. I've switched printers a couple times. I'm
Sure.
actually fixing to get to a new one. But, like, I think I started by, there are plenty of online card creating websites, like, if you wanna get cards
Yeah, we
printed.
we don't need to give details, but
For
yeah.
sure. And so I just used one of those. It was just a regular, and, like, they had a
Were you
foil,
part of any, like, proxy crews, or did you go and see other proxy makers, or did you just decide this on your own?
I had no, like, real attachment to, like, an online magic space. I've never been, like, a fanboy of anything before. I haven't really gotten, I mean,
You
like,
didn't
I'm a
have a
fan of
hobby like
things,
this.
but, like, I haven't really gotten deep into, like, a community, I guess I
Sure.
should say. And so, yeah, I just literally started a Twitter account. Once again, thanks to, what is it, Mike from Playing with Power, was because he also does art, and he helped me with some of the, because like I was confused between the difference between like an altar and a proxy, and like what I can
Mhm.
call an altar, what all sorts of stuff like that. And so
Like, because that seems to me wild, like, if I was gonna be like, "Yo, I'm just gonna start making proxies," like, that's just I guess that is exactly what happened at COVID. You're like, "I'm gonna do this. I guess I
I
should go figure out how to do this. Okay, I'll print out cards." Like, so, like, maybe I missed something here, but, like, you just decided to make 1 mountain? Like, did you just decide, like, "I wanna make my cards look cool, so I'm gonna make 1 mountain and see what it's
Well,
like?"
yeah, so, like, eventually after, like, I was like, I should have, actually set the timeline, because this all happened over the course of, like, 6 months or whatever.
Sure.
So I think it was in, like, September, or maybe August of 2020. I started to gain a little bit of traction on my account. Like I probably broke 100 followers or something like that. Um, and after that initial wave, I just sort of started experimenting and I wanted to do cool stuff. That was when I started my Patreon and I started making monthly tokens. And I always try to make different things, things that aren't so like, for example, my new thing that I have coming out soon is my blueprint tokens, which is a style that has been done before in Magic. But I'm just making tokens that look like blueprints of mechanical creatures in Magic. And I've done like I had like a Windows, what is like a Windows 95 ramen. Like it was like it looked like a Windows 95 browser. That sort of stuff is what I love to do because and a bunch of people yell at me for saying this, but like I still deep down am not like mentally an artist. I like to fool around with things. I am an
Sure,
artist and I love to make art, but I'm always doing I try to do non-traditional stuff.
sure.
And so I am always thinking about, well, how can I make a new thing that hasn't been done in Magic before? And I was like, well, I haven't seen any like landscapes for like there have been outrun neon edits of cards. There's alters of cards,
Mhm,
I'm sure. But I was like, a mountain would be really easy to do. And
mhm.
if you actually stare closely at the mountain, it's super rough, so to speak. So many people love it, but when I look at it, it makes me cringe. Because I did it completely 2D. I had no perspective, no nothing. On the rest of
Yeah.
the cycle,
It is a
I
little weird because, like,
it is weird,
I'm
yeah.
looking at it because 'cause I've got the full set in front of me. The mountain, like, it doesn't sit on the grid properly. Like,
Exactly.
it seems to be behind the grid instead of on top of the
Exactly.
grid.
I've been saying this for so long, and it bugs me to no end, but people still like it, and it's like,
Yeah, and,
okay, and this is the
I
first
half of
cycle.
why I liked it, though, is also because, when I grew up, I was, my family and I used to drive around the country a lot
Mhm.
for, like, religious things or meeting family or whatever, and we
Sure,
would stay at a
sure.
lot of roadside motels, and
Mhm,
one of the ones is a Comfort Inn, and it has this or, like, the Days Inn or the other kind of chains like that,
mhm.
and it has that it's in the '80s, it had this old logo, which was the sun with the lines kinda underneath it, exactly like behind the m mountain, and I looked at that and I'm like, "That is a trigger memory, and that's really, really kind of
I
I
love the
unexpectedly
sun
rad."
like that. I mean, that's just one of the most iconic sort of, monuments of the style,
Yeah.
uh, but the rest of them I did in, I rendered them in 3D first, like, I made sort of an outline and, got the perspectives right before I started editing it and actually making it.
Yeah,
But
because the
then
other ones
those
definitely look much more,
Yeah, like,
cohesive.
yeah, because I didn't like I did not know what I was doing. I was just some random guy with 200 followers on Twitter, and then ba-bam, like, I think I broke, like, 1,000 overnight or something. It was like, "Oh god, now I have
The
to be
forest is the
professional."
trippiest one to me because it
Don't get
looks
me
almost
started
like
on
a '90s
forests.
video game to me.
Oh, Shivam, don't get me started on forests, oh my god. I If you ask my art director, I've expressed so much hatred for forests, because in this style,
Oh, it's really
trees
hard
are
to do.
impossible. They're
Yeah,
they either look too clunky or they're too detailed. It's
you know what you need to
so
do is you need to go back and look at a game from the '90s like, Magic Carpet or something like that.
Mhm.
One of those very low poly games like Descent and things, and look at the way they used to do trees, and then just kinda hollow it out, and you will get your cool vaporwave tree look.
I've done all sorts of different types of trees and models of trees and styles, and
Or, like,
it's
look at,
hard to
like,
get a
Jack
medium.
Nicklaus Golf from 1986 or something like that, you
Yeah,
know?
and you get, like, the really chunky
CG,
ones, and
yeah,
that's what I
exactly.
try to do, but then the problem comes in with, like, well, the reason we can tell the leaves from other leaves is because we have, like, little bits of color and there can be branches, but if you have branches, then that's, like, more wires or, like, wireframe
Mhm.
vertexes, and it's a whole thing, but anyways, the,
Yes.
I did that whole cycle, and that was very fun,
So,
and then I
like, did you because I saw that you started selling them, which is how I got them.
yeah.
Like, did you just decide from the beginning, like, "I'm gonna sell these," or did people ask you?
People definitely ask me, and they've definitely asked me about my proxies beforehand. And now, while I can't sell proxies, obviously, and I
Yeah.
won't ever sell proxies, um, these are just little pieces of art that say mountain, forest, island, and swamp. And I did feel a little weird about it because I've always tried to stay as staunchly like to the fan content policy as possible,
Sure.
and I was pretty. I was like, "Yeah," but, I was a broke, or I guess still am a broke college kid, so I was like,
Uh,
"Yeah, a little bit of money, might as well try it out," and, then they hired me, so I don't think they have
well, they
my art.
hired you as a contractor, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah. Yeah, only for the Secret Lair. But, like, my art director used my website as, like, the link to my portfolio, which it was not at the like, it's just a shop still.
yeah.
And so, uh, like, that was, like seemed to be like they condoned what I had done. I was like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Well, because I think half of it is also, like, I think they knew. Like, I think they looked at this and were like,
Well, yeah, they
"Okay,
definitely
we
knew.
get it."
There's no
Huh?
way they didn't know, but, like,
Yeah, like,
then again, they
but I
can't
think
s
there's plausible deniability and also, like, "Hey,
Yeah,
we're bringing you up and up. We're making you
yeah,
on the level."
yeah, and they did. They
S
absolutely did.
so let's talk about that. So first off, so you made,
Yeah.
like, all 5 lands. Sold, I mean, you've sold out a bunch of times because I know that I've had problems before trying to get some, and, that's sweet. I mean, I'm still grateful because I love these lands so much.
Yeah,
Uh,
they are yeah, they'll be
they're
all
all
over yeah.
and because
They
you're a one-man shop, it means I have to go to the printer. You have to wait for me to get them. But, so, like, yeah, you got I mean, obviously, you made these things, they showed up and got retweeted all over the place as artwork, but how did Watsy contact you? That must have been weird as hell.
I this is I said before this is one of my favorite stories to tell, but this is my favorite story to tell, which is, because it's so unbelievable, it almost just doesn't even make sense because I was sitting there, I believe it was oh, I think it was almost exactly hold on, I can figure it out real quick, but I think it was almost exactly a year ago today,
Oh, that's
um,
wild.
which is really funny. Hold on, I have to check that. There's no way I can't. It must have been close. Yeah, it is a year and 6 days, so, like, a year and a week ago.
That's
Oh my
amazing.
gosh, I cannot believe that.
That's a hell of a year, man.
I was reached out to on Twitter.
Hmm.
I am dead serious. So, I because once
Well, you
again
didn't have your email listed anywhere. I'm sure
I
they
didn't
were
have
like,
yeah, no,
"We
I
need
that's
to find
exactly what I was
you."
gonna say. I was just I was just messing around. I was not, taking this as a serious career, like, I was making some money from Patreon, and I was making some money from that cycle of l the lands I could sell, and I even made, my own playmats, which I have somewhere around here,
Oh, really?
and sold those. Yeah,
Oh, I need to get one of those. That'd be sweet.
I made a limited run, but then I also have now an open edition, and it's just like a collage of all of them.
Yeah, well, they're gorgeous.
Um And so I was making some money and, but I wasn't, like, super serious about the business, quote, unquote.
Yeah, sure.
And I received a DM from an account that had no profile picture, and it had, like, 12 followers, um, and it said, something along the lines of, "Hey, I'm Tom Gencott. Send me an email. This is my email. I work at Wizards, we'd like you to work for us." And I was
That must have been the world's most, like, "This is a spam.
I
There's
got
no
this
way."
message and, it was in the other messages tab,
Sure, yeah.
and it was,
I get a lot of weirdo messages in there.
oh, yeah. But I'm cursed because I look at every
Oh,
message
I
and
have
every
to, I
comment I
have
get,
to.
I read every single one.
I am
And so, of
compelled.
course, I read this and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, this has to be fake." But, I mean, if it's real, I have to. So I
Yeah.
sent a message and it was I don't even remember what it says, but it was just probably like the
"Hi,
shakiest
you
like,
DM'd me?"
"Hi, I'm Ben. You sent me a message on Twitter." And that is when I got yeah, that was the beginning of it. And over the next like
Yeah,
month and
but,
a
like, what did they
half,
say? Like, were they like, "Hey, we loved your artwork and want to have you do a thing for us?"
they yeah, I mean,
You
when I
don't need to
talked
read
to
me the
Tom
verbatim, but I was just really curious, like, what
Yeah,
was
no,
that
Tom
initial hit like?
was quite literally he sent me formal art descriptions, but before the art descriptions, he was just like, "We really liked what you did. We thought it was a really cool style. We just want you to do it again." And just like we want to make it more cohesive. We want to make it look
More magic-y?
more magicy, I guess. And like I would be, and that was how I got in contact with Tom Gencott, who's my art director, who was I cannot sing the praises of enough. He is so fantastic. He was I was the most like trembly little, like, this is my
Well,
first
because
time
he
in the
knows, yeah, it's your first
industry.
real gig.
But I've never been an artist before this, never
Right.
done anything like
Like,
that,
this
and
is your
I
hobby,
I got
and
the lot.
suddenly
It's the lottery. I got the golden ticket, and so I'm just the whole time just like trembling, typing out my emails like, "Is this okay?" And Tom is just the most patient and kind. Like, seriously, I cannot say enough praise for that,
because,
Tom.
like, when they dropped the Super Layer or whatever it was, that Secret Lair, dump, right? Like, the
Mhm,
February or whatever, and we're all just going down and like, "Oh, okay, look, here's, like, fancy formal modern artists. Here's, like, cool ukiyo-e style Japanese. Here's wood print, block print. Here's, like, stuff that looks more like the Heartless Hitotsugu, whatever style, blah, blah,
mhm,
blah, fine." And then out of nowhere, like, the entire Twitter feed of mine, all of my proxy friends and
mhm.
me are just like, "Wait, I know those goddamn lands right now." And then we looked at her like, and the whole community was just like, "Hallelujah." It's like
That day,
it felt
I
like an anointment.
I will ne I will that day will never leave my mind. It was I so, like, for one, when that day came around, when the secret lair was all done and it was announced, I had no idea when they were announcing it. I knew the release date, but I had no idea when they were going to spill the beans. And so I was sitting there in my this was my embedded systems lab, just like waiting to hear some lecture from the TA about what we were doing. And I got a ping on my phone from Discord that said like I have like a bot that just reads all the spoilers, and it said, new secret layer. It was the chibi, the chibi
Yeah,
planeswalkers. And I was like, "Oh, they've announced a secret layer. Like mine could be coming soon." Yesterday they announced the Street Fighter
you're right,
layer,
right, right.
and then they released the rest of them the next day. So I was like, "Oh, mine could be coming, any day now." And then I got another Discord ping that was I think it was the Kaito um
Sure, the
signature
comic
spell
book one.
book, quote unquote. And I was like, "Oh, they're announcing all of them." And then I got a ping from Twitter, the first ping from Twitter that was just all caps. And it was like, "Yo, Ben, is this you?" And it was like a picture link of the layer. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to go home." And I stood up and I left the lab. I drove straight home, and it was so funny when it was announced that people in the proxy community have been burned pretty badly in the past before that.
Sure.
There was a period of like 10 minutes before I had made my tweet about it where I was
Oh,
getting
right.
so many DMs and pings
They
about
stole
someone
your art.
stealing my art.
Who's this asshole Ben stealing your stuff?
That is literally what happened. I had friends of mine who were like, "This guy, effing sucks because he stole from Ben. This art is terrible."
Oh, yeah, I remember seeing all of my proxy friends were just, like, there was, like, a span of, like, 20 minutes or something where everybody was just infuriated. They were gonna burn the building down, we were getting the brigades ready, people were gonna batter down like, getting the battering rams and the oil and the yeah,
Yeah, it
and then,
was
like, it was like, "Wait, no way." Yeah.
and getting to make that the tweet of just like, "Hey guys, we have some catching up to do, I am a magic artist." That was it was fantastic, and I couldn't be like happier with the reception. So many people have been happy with how they look, and that just is really all that matters to me. I'm a people pleaser. Although I did stay away from the Reddit post about it because I've heard about that.
Well, you don't go to the Reddit posts.
That's not true. I totally looked at it. um, but yeah, and so, like, working through that, I've been working on it for forever. I'm just so terribly lazy, and this last semester was tough, but I'm trying to get through it this summer. Is I the whole time I took, video diaries of the experience, and
Oh, sweet.
I'm trying to compile them. I'm just terribly lazy
Well,
sometimes.
yeah. You should do it when they actually come out and people get them.
That's the goal. That's like because I missed the announce window because I had been working on it, and then, but yeah, when it actually fully releases, but not that is happening. Those are getting fully released, but I also am like I got to work with wizards. I'm now working with Ultra Pro, which is super cool too.
Oh, are they gonna make, like, sleeves and stuff out of your land?
Not right now the only plan is I'm gonna have play mats. I'm gonna get
Sure.
official, and so this
The how
is
rad is that, though?
it's so sick. I've seen the mock-ups with the Ultra Pro logo, and then there's my name, and it's hitting all sorts of it's great. But, I worked on in secret, and they still haven't been revealed yet. Not a super secret, but there are extended versions of each of the landscapes
Oh.
that are playmat sized. So I am
Oh, that's
s
sweet.
there's I'm so excited to get those around. I'm just waiting for Ultra Pro to get back to me. Ultra Pro, if you're out
So,
there.
I mean, can we talk a little bit about what it was like to work with wizards?
Yeah, absolute
So, like,
as much as I can.
yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna be, like, telling you back and forth, but so, yeah, an art director reaches out to you and says, "We wanna do a secret layer," and after you, like, calm down and get your heart rate back to normal, you're like, "Of course, I will do whatever you want."
I
Eh,
I I sti I did not believe it up until it was announced. Like, even after I had gotten
you're like,
paid
"They
by
can
them,
cancel it
I
at
was
any
like, "Yeah,
time."
they could totally cut it." Like, this is still, like, not a sure shot, and it took, I'd say, probably 5 or 6 emails from Tom before I actually believed it was like, I still thought it was a elaborate hoax. Um, and then when I started signing, like, official Wizards, like, documents and
Yeah, it's
stuff,
like,
I was
"Here's your
like,
NDA," and you're like, "Oh,
"Alright, well, I guess
oh."
this is real." Um, but
That's sweet.
it all started, so I started work, I think I got the, art descriptions,
So,
it
yeah,
was
what like,
beginning of July.
what does that look like? Like, what does an art description for a vaporwave island even mean? Like, he's like, "I
I
need it to be pointy and have a grid on it," and you're like, "Hmm."
The basic I can't go too far into the
Yeah, I don't
details,
need the
but the
exact details,
basic
but, like,
structure is, like, it'll say, like, how big do you want the file to be, what format, what colors, it'll have, like, a feel, like, there are example, art descriptions. I would give you more, but I think that's one of the things I was
sure.
told not to
Like, you're
talk
not
about.
supposed to give us the details, don't worry about that.
But yeah, that was very weird, but, like, they weren't super necessary because I already knew what they were looking for, because it was just sort of a repeat of my unofficial lands and make them official.
Sure.
Um, but
And they put, like, a nice cleaner font on it and
yeah, that was, well, actually, I actually did that font. That was not the Framing Folks, although the Framing Folks did, what did they do? There's one small thing. Not a lot, like, it is largely exactly what I submitted, which is super sweet.
yeah.
I think there were some color hue changes, but that's totally fine.
Probably to make the island a little bit less purple and a little bit more
It's
blue.
always the problem. There's just you can't put swamp just eats it too much, like, because I
Mhm.
can only show swamp as purple, and then, I like a maybe it's just me. I like a pink and a purple island, like,
Mm.
that's just me, but,
Well, I mean,
uh
I grew up in Revised, man. I love me pink and purple islands.
oh, yeah. Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
but, like, I don't know, I would have put, like, a vaporwave dolphin in there, but that's, like, getting a little much. Like, but yeah, looking at your forest though, it's obviously you can tell it's like, the rounded tops of trees and stuff, but that also must have been really a real challenge for you to figure out. Like we were discussing earlier, even
Yeah,
like
so
trying to come
the
up with what a forest has to look like and get it through grids is a
like,
bitch.
I think I finished the base concept, obviously not all the tweaking and editing and submitting back and forth of both the plane or of both the mountain and the plains, I think. The plains was changed a little bit. I finished those in, like, a day, like, day and a half.
I love the
Those
way the
were
plains has texture on the land.
Yep,
Like it's
yep.
you can see the elevation and stuff. It looks so sweet.
And originally on that plains, I had the temple, that sort of ruined temple.
Yeah.
I had that straight in the center, and, like, had a crazy beam shooting out of it, and I love telling this story because it's like a design thing that I didn't even think about, and my art director kind of, like, metaphorically slapped me on the back of the head, like, "What are you talking about?" Because he was like, "This looks like a legendary land, what are you doing?"
Right. It
Obviously, he said
does.
it very much more kind and nicely than that, and that was one of the few, or not one of the few, one of the many times that I just learned from Tom. I was like, "Oh, of course. Yeah, why did I not
Well,
think of
yeah,
that?"
because it's the plains. You can't put something in the plains, otherwise that'll be the thing, right?
Yeah, and so, like,
But like this
but I
way with the
really wanted the, like, ruined, because each land has to have something to it, like a little,
right.
they have their base concept and then, like, a little sub theme.
Well, because like when I
Um
look at the original plains you did, which I also have directly in front of
Yep.
me, um, and I'm gonna need to get all the arts from you later so that I can have my boy EK put them into the video.
Sure.
But yeah, like the original one, you can see it's just like if you took the grid and just kind of textured it to look like rolling plains, and
Hmm.
then there's a sun behind it, but it's very blank.
Yeah.
Having that like ruins in there, giving it kind of the like empty city feel,
Yep.
really centers it as a plains, and it really gives it kind of a cohesiveness to it. And like similarly, I like that the sun is the same in all of them to give it kind of that unifying
That
feature.
was the biggest because that was my biggest regret from the first one. Although I really like the crescent moon. I originally did a crescent moon
Yeah, I like that
on
a
my
lot.
original swamp, and I still love the crescent moon. But having all of the suns be exactly the same just makes it flow so much better. Because like if you look at my playmat that I made of the original cycle, because they're all
Hmm.
lined up right next to each other, the horizon line is all over the place. The sun is kind of all over the place, and so
Yeah.
from the get go, like I had a set sun place and I had a sort of set horizon place, and that allowed for much better cohesion
Well,
of
yeah,
them.
because now it actually feels like a set of
Yeah,
like it feels like magic cards, right? Like it's got a unifying theme to it,
and
and
it
it's got a
feels like they
unifying
all
vibe.
released at the same time, right? They didn't just
Yeah,
get released one by one like I
and
did with the
I'll be
original.
honest, I love the originals, but the
Mhm.
new mountain looks better.
Oh yeah. Because I did it in because I first did it in 3D for perspective stuff, and I made it look. I like the I don't know, what is hate in a good way? Passion, I guess. Like I wanted it to be like kind of scary, but like very pointy and menacing, but also just like I don't know. It's hard to, but
It's
the
still gotta
mountain
look
is
like a
by far my
mountain.
favorite,
Yeah,
by
I mean, it
far.
looks cool. It looks very much like the Lone Mountain off in the distance,
Yeah,
very ominous, very mountainy.
but
Um,
oh
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I'm looking at the land, so I'm just
I was
taking
just
it
gonna
in.
say because that island and plains took me like no time. Those were simple, like shouldn't say simple designs, although they're fairly simple, but like they were pretty straightforward. The
Mm.
swamp took me quite a bit of time, like probably combined total of like 4 to 5
Why did
days.
you just like try to figure out a theme for it that would work better?
We yeah, all well, maybe less. It is like maybe 3 days of just bouncing between like where trees should be, if there should be water, because um and I talked about this or I've talked about this before, but the swamps are very abstract. They're a very sort of
Yes.
abstract thing. If you look at magic sets, set to set to set to set, swamps I feel change the most out of all the
Yeah,
because they
because
can
what
be.
is a swamp? It's
What
a
is a swamp?
sewer, it's a murk, it's like undead things. It doesn't make any sense. There's like
And like, yeah, exactly. And I could have gone with like a more because this is like vaporwave. I could have gone with like a neo sort of futurist kind of, which maybe would have fit more in Kamigawa and make it be like a sewer, for example. But I wanted it to be just a natural swamp so that it would be like organic like the others. And
I think having the random broken gravestones really just sets it apart from the island and the other things, and you're like, "This is swamp. This is
yeah,
black mana. This is what it does." Like,
yes.
I think it would have been cool if it had, like, vines and snakes and whatever, swampiness,
I
but
wanted the exact same thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
given the art restrictions and the fact that this has to send a message across very simply and very directly,
Mhm.
having it be the like, having it be the thing just makes more sense to me. Having it be, like, gravestones and whatever.
100%, and getting those little, like, because I also wanted vines, that was, like and that was also, I think, what Tom talked about was, like, how can we make this look more like a swamp? But it
Mm,
is such a limitation, the Outrun style, because it is so minimalist. It's so
right.
you like as few vertices as you can, and, I mean, more can add some volume to the color, but you want it to be as simple as possible, and you can't get little details, which is what made the forest so hard. That forest took me I actually spent so much time on the forest that I really feel like looking back because you're always gonna have regrets.
Sure.
The island I am a little disappointed with, just
I
because
don't know, I
I
think
look
the
at it and
island
was Mhm.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I look at it and I'm kind of I wish I added a little bit more volume and depth to it, but I swear to you, I really was just spending so much time on this forest because
Mhm.
I mean, we must have gone through like I think I submitted 20 sketches for the forest. I'm not
Yeah.
kidding. Like it was terrible. And mind you, this whole time this was going on, I was taking summer classes. Like this summer was
Very busy for
tough.
you.
It was tough.
And you
But
can't tell anybody and you can't work on it. You're just like,
it's
"Mm, yeah."
yeah.
But,
But
honestly, though, I think the island looks sick.
I'm
Like,
glad.
there's some things I would have changed, like, maybe, like, not having that center line go from the water through the mountain and through the
Sure,
island itself, and, like, some of the, like, lines on top look a little weird, but I don't care,
sure.
it looks sweet, though, and it looks like an island, and having the water contrast with the actual rock, it gives you a sense of, like, difference, and so,
And
like,
yeah, I
it
drew
looks
a lot of
cool.
inspiration for that one, because I like the idea of a vertical island on a vertical
Mhm.
card, much like the unstable John Avon Island of the,
Mm.
like, towering, and so, like, we scaled that down a little bit, and I still I should mention, still like, the island a lot, but I kind of screwed myself a little bit because I did from the very beginning, my mission was not to do the same exact thing again with, like, my original cycle versus the new Secret Lair. I did not want to make the same exact thing, and so I told myself, "I'm not putting a palm tree on this island. I can't like, it would be too similar." As much as I want to because palm trees are such a
Islandy thing.
striking. Yeah, I mean, not only an island thing, but it's a pretty integral part of the Outrun style, and I probably could have gotten away with it, but
I really love the original island you did. Even though the island itself is kind of flat, the fact that there's that palm tree in front of the sun feels
yeah,
so like Miami Vice to me. Like
yeah,
that's
it really
so
is a
iconically
palm tree more than an
yes.
island, but it does look, yeah, I'm fond of that one. Um,
Like I mean, I'm not gonna stop using the originals just because I think now there's a prestige to that,
oh,
to
yeah.
being like, "Yeah, I was there first, buddy." But, like, it's
And
still
you have the
sick
ones
though.
that say my old brand on it too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that is vintage. Those aren't getting printed again. That's reserve list.
Reserve list proxies. There we go. There's a world I don't need. Um, but man, I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. Like, this is so sweet. I
It
mean, you know how many of us dream about getting this kind of luck?
I it and, you know, in that way, it felt almost even because, like, there's always an imposter syndrome with
Oh,
any
yeah.
content creation, much less, art or much as art and whatnot, and, you know, man, getting that and then, like, because there are so many proxy folks out there that should be
Yes.
getting this as well. If you look at my catalog, if you ignore my Patreon tokens that I do every month, I really have not produced a ton of proxies. Like, it's only been like a handful.
Your
And
shrine token is sweet, though.
thank you. I was surprised with how much people love that one. Just because sometimes at the end of the month, and when I designed that one, that was right after midterms, I think. I'm just like busy, 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 and so I throw one out, and a lot of people really like the shrine and expressed that to me, which was sweet. Um, but yeah, I do love making tokens though because I can get really weird with it, and I'm also allowed to, sell them, which is
Yeah,
a
it's
big plus
tokens.
for
Nobody
me.
cares about tokens.
Yeah, no, who cares about tokens?
Like, dude, show
Um,
me when you make some vaporwave, soldiers, and then we can talk.
that I can
Or you
add
know
to
what
the
would be
list.
cool?
What's that?
Sapperling tokens. That would look sweet in your
I
style.
haven't done that yet. I have done plant, but I have not
Plant would look cool,
done
but sapperlings
sapperling.
would look real cool.
Sapperling, I need to experiment.
Or like Pegasus or something.
Pegasus is cool. My biggest weakness though is because I love landscapes most of all,
Mm.
even when I paint. And I don't really share my paintings because I'm not a very good painter, but I love to paint. Um, and I love landscapes because I always beat myself
Then
up over like
food tokens
figures.
or treasure tokens.
No, yeah, those are, like, the ones I like to do, but I can only do those so many times, and then, like, because I still
Clues?
haven't done, like, a goblin, for example,
Mm.
which is, like, a big one, but everybody in their mind knows what a goblin looks like, and that is so
Mm.
scary to
Well,
try
what
and
you do
nail.
is you gotta go back to, like, the old '80s, like, video games and get, like, an 8-bit looking goblin figure at the bottom that's just kinda moving over this grid, make it look like Ultima 2 or something, and you're fine.
Perhaps. I really like, alongside Outrun styles is also pixel art is
Yeah.
something that I also like to dabble in, and so eventually I will. I did, like, kind of I did a skeleton once, and the skeleton was, like, I don't know, it must have been, like, 24 pixels tall or something like
Or,
that,
like
and so, like, doing that for goblins would be really cool, like, I wanna have, like, a horde of goblins would
or
be
if you did,
sweet.
like, a zombie token, you just take your swamp and have a hand coming out of it.
Okay, y I've literally done that. So my zombie token is literally a neon hand reaching out of a neon ground.
Like, come on,
So
it's like
I beat you to
it's
it.
stealth itself. A dragon would just be like a fire breathing coming out the side or something. It would be sweet.
But yeah, I always want to expand
Pink and purple fairy tokens. There we
the
go.
boundaries as much as I can. Oh yeah, that'd be sick. And I assume that like that's what most proxy people like to do. They like to do weird stuff, and so that's my goal for right now. Yeah, I have the like I said before, that like blueprint tokens that I think look super sweet coming out soon. That are they look like blueprints. And I want to do like categorical drops like that. They all fit into a category and do something like that. And
Yeah, but the problem is your Patreon's out of slots. How do you
so
have a limit on how many patrons you want, man?
because I can only
I realize you can only do so much as a human, but you're leaving money on the table. As an old
so
man, let me tell you, young man, strike while the iron is hot.
I am actually increasing the tiers. I could say this now in the podcast for June. So if you're listening to this in June, there should hopefully be more spots available for you. Actually, it might even be for May. Like I said, I just got a new printer, so and I'm now doing this or I've been doing it. I've been trying it for a couple months, but I'm now doing art full time because of my Patreon and the stuff that I
Oh,
get
that's
through my
awesome.
website and stuff. And and so I'm trying to dedicate time to it. And it has been tough. I've been like, it's content creation. It's hard. I don't know how folks do it. It's hard
Yeah.
to just I don't know how you do it.
I just have to talk, man. The hard part is honestly, the hardest part of this is finding people to talk to. And
Anytime you need a guest, I will come. We can talk about whatever. I will talk. That's the one thing I love to do.
anyways, Ben, thank you so much for joining me today. I love this. I love this for you. I love this for Magic. I love this for the community. And I love this for me as a vaporwave fanboy. So like I'm so happy for you that this is happening. And I wish that this gives you more opportunities in the future because I think that'd be super sweet.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
And in the
Thank you.
meantime, I
Thank
need
you.
to get me some of these playmats here
I
or
have.
prints or whatever.
I have them coming. They are coming. I'm just waiting on a bunch of people. I've been waiting on people for like a month now. I'm ready to get them out there, but I'm waiting on stuff.
All right. So if folks wanted to find you or your store or whatever, where can they go?
Yes, so you can find me firstly on Twitter, is where I am most prevalent, at BenMakesStuff. You can find me more deceptively on Instagram at BenMakesMagic. BenMakesStuff was taken. That's all I can do. You can find my website, benmakes.cool. That's where you can find all my stuff. I'm trying to revamp that at some point. And then you can also find me on Patreon, also Ben Makes Stuff, and all of that is should be linked somewhere on my Twitter profile if you can't find any of those. But I make tokens every month for people on my Patreon. Like I said, I will be expanding it. I know it is sold out. I get so much crap from my buddies who want to support me like locally, and they're like, "We can't even give you money."
Yeah, dude, seriously. Like don't let me tell you as an old content creator that you cannot turn down. I mean, you can't limit yourself. Rather, no,
Yeah.
let me retry that. You shouldn't be the limit. Like it's one thing if like okay, like your sponsors or if you've got other things that are limiting factors, that's fine. But if it's something you should control and people want to give you money, you should do everything in your power to make that happen
I
because
I definitely try to make that happen. But yeah, no, I need
we're
to.
not in a very lucrative game here, man. So
Sure, yeah,
you
yeah.
can't leave your mana sources untapped.
It's
Um,
just I always have to order the. It's
yeah,
really a laziness thing because I have to have the tokens ahead of time.
yeah, like I realize that because you've
And
got
it's
physical product, that makes it into
yeah, I have
much
to
more
ship it.
complicated than
But
like me, which is just talking into this can.
the folks at the post office, they see me drop off my big box of envelopes every month, and but
Man, that's so sweet. Thank you and again for joining me today.
of
And as
course.
always, my friends, you can find me at Gear Reported Gears. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are sold, or at Cool Stuff Inc. every Tuesday, or at YouTube generally like 3 to 4 days after I post it on Cool Stuff and on the podcatchers. And as always, it's not magic without the gathering, and we will see you next time.